Imagine stepping into a giant, outdoor oven. The sun beats down from a bright blue sky, acting like a massive heat lamp. Red sand and jagged rocks stretch as far as your eyes can see. The air is so hot and dry that it makes your throat scratch with every breath. This is a harsh, baking world where almost nothing green can grow. Yet, hidden deep inside this baking wasteland is a mind-blowing secret. Tucked behind towering stone walls in the country of Jordan lies a place that seems completely impossible. It is a giant, beautiful city carved right into the sides of red mountains. To get there, you have to walk through a dark, very narrow crack in the rocks. The walls of this crack are taller than skyscrapers. They are painted by nature in swirls of bright pink, deep red, and rusty orange. Walking through this shadowy path, you suddenly step out into the bright light. A massive stone building towers above you. It looks like a giant sandcastle, but it is made of solid, hard rock. It has tall pillars and beautiful statues chopped right out of the cliff. This is the ancient wonder known as Petra. This magical place was once home to tens of thousands of people. But there is a huge, crazy mystery here. People need a lot to drink every single day. Plants need a lot to grow. How did a massive group of people survive in such an incredibly dry location? The answer lies with a super clever group of people called the Nabataeans. They lived over 2,000 years ago. They were famous travelers and traders. They walked across the hot sand with long lines of camels, carrying heavy bags of sweet-smelling spices. But their real superpower was not trading goods. Their secret was uncovering the hidden rules of nature. They figured out how to tame the toughest, driest environment on Earth. Think of the desert like a giant sponge that has been left in the sun for way too long. It becomes hard as a rock. When rain finally falls, the hard ground cannot soak it up. The drops just slide right off the baked dirt. This creates a sudden, terrifying event. When a rare storm breaks, the sky turns black. Heavy rain pounds the ground. Because the dirt cannot drink it, the drops group together. They form a fast, angry wave. A quiet, dry canyon can turn into a raging, muddy river in just a few minutes. This angry rush is called a flash flood. It is incredibly dangerous. It moves fast, carrying heavy rocks and washing away anything in its path. Most people would run far away from these scary, sudden floods. The brilliant builders of this rocky home did the exact opposite. They ran toward the wild rivers. The Nabataeans used amazing engineering to catch the wild water. Instead of letting the sudden floods wash their homes away, they built giant walls made of heavy stone blocks. These walls were very strong dams. When a wild, muddy flood came roaring down the canyon, it smashed right into the thick stone. The heavy wall stopped the angry river in its tracks. The trapped river quickly calmed down. It pooled up safely behind the heavy rocks. The clever builders had tamed the wild flood, turning a dangerous monster into a helpful pet. But stopping the flood was only the first step of their master plan. They needed to save every single drop for the long, hot summer months ahead. So, they carved giant, deep holes right into the solid rock ground. These giant holes were called cisterns. You can think of a cistern like a massive underground thermos. A thermos keeps your soup hot or your juice cold because it is sealed tight. The builders dug hundreds of these giant thermoses all over the rocky hills. They covered the inside walls with a special, waterproof paste. This paste was like magical ancient glue. It sealed every tiny crack so nothing could leak out into the dirt. They also made sure the tops of these giant holes were covered with stone roofs. This was a genius move. The roofs stopped the hot desert sun from shining on the liquid. If the sun hit it, the liquid would turn into vapor and float back into the sky. Because the storage tanks were deep underground and covered up, the liquid stayed fresh and cold all year long. Even when the ground above was baking hot, the hidden tanks were freezing cold. It is a crazy and interesting thought. While tired travelers were sweating and burning up on the sand above, a giant, hidden ocean of cold, fresh liquid was resting right under their feet. But the amazing ideas did not stop there. The city center was far away from some of the biggest storage tanks. The people needed a way to move their liquid treasure across the arid landscape. They could not just carry it in buckets. That would take way too long and too much would spill on the dusty ground. Instead, they invented an ingenious system of pipes. These were not metal or plastic pipes like we have in our houses today. They were made of baked clay, just like a brown flower pot. The builders shaped the wet clay into long, round tubes and baked them until they were hard. They connected the tubes end to end, snapping them together like toy building blocks. They sealed the edges tightly so not a single drop could escape. These clay pipes stretched for miles and miles along the canyon walls. They were tilted just a tiny, tiny bit. The tilt was so perfect that gravity slowly pulled the liquid along the tubes. If the slant was too steep, the liquid would rush too fast and burst the clay pipes. If the slant was too flat, the liquid would just sit there and get dirty. The gentle slope meant it flowed completely on its own, at the perfect speed. No loud pumps were needed. No heavy machines were used. Just a brilliant understanding of how things naturally fall downhill. Imagine walking through a hot, dusty canyon 2,000 years ago. If you listened closely to the rock wall right next to you, you might hear a quiet, magical sound. It was the sound of a rushing stream, safely hidden inside the clay pipes. This incredible water system allowed the rocky home to grow bigger and richer than anyone thought possible. It was not just a place to barely survive. It was a place to live like kings and queens. Because they had so much saved up, the people did something totally unbelievable. They built giant, splashing fountains right out in the open air. They made the liquid spray up into the hot sky just for fun. They even planted huge green gardens. They built a massive public swimming pool right in the middle of the sand. Imagine seeing bright green leaves and smelling sweet flowers in the center of a brown, dusty wasteland. It was a true, beautiful oasis. Visitors from other lands must have thought it was pure magic. They traveled for weeks across dry sand, only to find a wealthy civilization with splashing pools and cool, leafy shade. This magic trick made the rocky home a famous stop for everyone. Every traveler wanted to rest there, and because everyone stopped there to drink and rest, the city became incredibly rich from trading goods. The clever builders used their new wealth to carve even more beautiful buildings into the red cliffs. They made giant temples and grand halls that we can still look at today. The entire Rocky Kingdom was built on one simple, powerful idea. If you respect nature and save exactly what it gives you, you can flourish anywhere on Earth. Sadly, nothing lasts forever. Hundreds of years later, massive earthquakes shook the ground, the giant rocks tumbled down, and the clever clay pipes shattered into tiny pieces. Around the same time, new trade paths opened up across the oceans. People started using big ships instead of camels. The long lines of travelers stopped coming to the rocky city. The beautiful green gardens dried up and turned back into blowing dust. The grand red buildings were left totally empty. For a very long time, the amazing canyon was forgotten by most of the world. It slept quietly under the hot sun, keeping its secrets safe. But those secrets were never fully erased. Many centuries later, curious explorers found the hidden crack in the rocks again. They were completely amazed by the giant stone carvings. As experts carefully dug into the sand, they found the broken pieces of the clay pipes. They found the heavy stone dams blocking the canyons. They discovered the giant, underground thermoses. They quickly realized that the pretty stone buildings were only half the story. The real wonder was the brilliant plumbing hidden behind the walls and buried under the dirt. It is mind-blowing to think about. People long ago, without computers, diggers, or electric tools, solved a puzzle that still tricks us today. They knew exactly how to live in perfect balance with a very harsh world. Today, many places on our planet are getting hotter and drier. Modern cities are struggling to find enough fresh liquid for everyone to drink. Scientists are actually looking back at these ancient desert masters for help. They are studying the old stone dams and the clever clay pipes to learn new tricks for our future. The ancient builders teach us that every single drop is deeply precious. They show us that we do not need to fight against nature. We just need to listen to it closely and catch what it throws our way. The red stone city is a giant, beautiful reminder standing in the sand. It proves that human brains are absolutely incredible. We can turn a baking wasteland into a splashing paradise if we just use our imagination. The next time a heavy rain falls, watch how the drops slide off your roof and race down the street. Think of the ancient builders who would have rushed to catch every single one of those drops. The red carved rocks will always stand as a giant, proud trophy in the desert. They celebrate the amazing humans who learned to catch the rain, tame the floods, and make the dry sand bloom.